Okay, welcome everybody to the Spoilercast of Avengers Age of Ultron. If you don't know what Spoilercast is, we're basically going to talk about spoilers or anything that's in the movie. So if you haven't seen it and you care about spoilers, don't freaking listen to this and then complain.
Yeah. You're going to be very disappointed.
Yeah, if you have seen it and want to listen to this and hear our opinion and weigh in or whatever, then this is the podcast for you. Sitting with me is Jason.
Yep, here we go.
And Lindsay.
Yep.
And we have all just barely seen, like, an hour ago, Age of Ultron. So it's super fresh in our minds.
Yep.
There's some controversy to talk about, which we're going to save. So keep it on the back burner there, Lindsay. First of all, let's hear opinions. Go for it, Lindsay.
Really fun movie. It was entertaining. Basically did its job, just like the first Avengers. It was fun. You had some good laughs in there. Honestly, it wasn't quite as funny, I think, as the first one. I think this one, they didn't have as many punchlines, but it was still pretty fun to watch. And overall, it was a good time, so I think you got your value out of what you wanted when you went to the theater.
Better or worse than the first one?
The kind of middle, I don't know. I honestly like the first one better.
Jason, opinion?
Well, my opinion is I like the first one better. I don't know. Some of the time when I was sitting there watching it, I got the feeling that the explosions were there to distract me from what was going on, and that it wasn't quite as good as it could have been.
Yeah, and imagine that it wasn't even directed by Michael Bay.
Well, I've seen a lot of Joss Whedon stuff, and this might actually sound sacrilegious, but I'm convinced that he's not as good a director as people make him out to be. And I think some of the fault lies in partially the writing and how he likes to structure the stories.
Yeah.
It was good. I really liked it. I thought it was better than the first one. I have a semi-lower opinion of the first one. Because I think it's mainly just action schlock with nothing behind it. But to be fair, the first one holds a lot more credit because the first one was a culmination of a lot of movies coming together and you finally seeing the heroes come together for the first time.
Right.
This is trying to pick up after that.
Yeah. I thought that, I guess from my opinion, there were a couple of things that felt forced to me. The relationship between Black Widow and Bruce Banner felt kind of forced.
I'll agree to that.
And
did you hear about that controversy with what's his name that played Hawkeye?
No, I hadn't heard.
So the guy I forget what his name is, the actor.
Jeremy Renner.
Somebody was talking to him and Captain America at one of those big interview things.
Uh-huh.
And if you ever see those interview things that they'll sit and do like 100 interviews one right after another where they sit in the room and then they send in new reporters over and over again. Right. So sometimes near the end of the thing that you start to hear some reviews get a little goofy and they get really tired and sick of basically answering the same question over and over and over again.
Right.
Somebody was talking to Jeremy Renner about Black Widow, and he said, and they had asked him about the relationship with the Hulk or whatever, and he said, yeah, I don't know, she always came across as somewhat of a slut to me. And then Captain America goes, yeah, she was kind of a slut. And people just freaked out over his comment, just really upset. And from what I've seen, they're all pretty good friends on the set.
Uh-huh.
And so somebody finally asked him at a talk show what he was talking about. Because he's like, I know there was a lot of controversy around it. He's like, first of all, I'm talking about a fictional character, not actually Scarlett Johansson.
Right.
Second of all, if you recall...
Although to be fair,
To be fair, what?
Scarlett Johansson.
I'm not going to comment on her personal life. But then he goes, to be fair, the character was flirty with Tony Stark and Captain America and practically everybody on the set at one point, and he's like, she's just doing her rounds, and she got around to flirting with the Hulk now. And I was like, that's somewhat funny. He's commenting on the fact that she basically bounces around and flirts with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And he's not wrong. I don't know why the controversy was so bad, how he could criticize somebody for whatever. But that was a big thing on the internet.
It does sound like he's criticizing Scarlett Johansson. He's not.
He's not.
He was commenting on... They asked him specifically about the relationship between Black Widow and the Hulk, or Bruce Banner, whatever. And he says, it wasn't... He didn't say, so how was the relationship between Scarlett Johansson and what was his name? Ruffalo. Anyway.
But the big draw, or at least the big center of the movie, was Ultron.
Ultron, I felt, looked incredibly menacing. His face, the way that they did his expressions and stuff, and the fact that it was like this kind of movable metal.
Yeah, movable metal was pretty cool. Not realistic.
But it gave it a kind of a strangeness that made him even more menacing, I think. But at the same time, I didn't like the way they did James Spader's voice.
I thought James Spader did a great job voice acting. They gave him goofy, almost slightly, I don't know, kitsch lines to do sometimes.
He had some weird lines.
And it took away from the character and him being super awesome, because the whole show's to be centered around Ultron being this big freaking deal.
Now, I don't want to say that I guess I shouldn't say that this should be a negative taken against James Spader.
No, that's what you're saying.
Probably. To me, he did fine as a voice actor. His lines were well delivered and things. I just didn't get the same sense of menace that I got from his physical features. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I honestly, when I heard the trailer, that whole Pinocchio opening, the way they did it with the trailer, it sounded brilliant, and he sounded terrifying.
Yeah.
But the actual film deliverer, like Rhett said, he has all these weird, like, goofy lines where he's like, oh, what is, this makes this, people make little people. What are those things called? Oh, children. Right. Well, he's gonna forget.
Like, Ultron needs to have funny one-liners.
He doesn't.
He's the bad guy.
There are certain bad guys that could have funny one-liners. But Ultron's not one of them.
He's just a robot.
Yeah.
His whole motivation and stuff. I mean, it was very labored to try and get it to justify the fact that Ultron was created to be somebody to create peace, and he decided he had to kill humanity to maintain peace. It's like the whole, when the day the Earth stood still sort of goofy concept. Or, if you ever watch the extra scene in Abyss, remember that? Do you remember the extra scene that they cut out?
I don't remember the extra scene.
So in the Abyss, they're all underwater and stuff, and they run into underwater aliens. Spoilers. Right. The movie's like 30 years old. What do you want from me? The original, remember when, like, the aliens show up and they save everybody underwater?
Right.
And there's no longer problems or whatever. The original cut ending for it that they had to change because a lot of people, it tested hugely poorly, right?
They didn't get it or didn't like it.
I've seen the original ending. The aliens created a giant tidal wave to destroy the planet, and they have to convince them that mankind's worth saving because the aliens decided that mankind's too destructive for the world.
Well, they did try to, nuke them.
No, they tried. Well, they tried to nuke them, but I think
the one crazy.
Yeah, the one crazy guy. Let's just screw over mankind for one crazy guy. Anyway, it seemed like a similar concept to me, Like the day the Earth stood still concept of mankind's destroying itself, we need to get rid of them or whatever. And the only way to save them is to kill them.
It's as bad as that Noah's Ark movie.
Oh, that was
that
terrible.
One with the rock monsters, golem monsters, apparently.
I hate that movie.
But looping back to Avengers, it's this mentality that humankind is going to destroy everything.
The thing is that Ultron did want to kill everyone. He wanted the world to be populated with robots.
Yeah, but it wasn't. They tried really hard to give him this sort of like understandable, justifiable argument.
Well, I think that's a mistake.
It was a mistake
because Ultron shouldn't be understandable. He should be this terrifying, world destroying entity. You shouldn't try to identify with him and see things from his point of view.
They could have solved.
He wants to kill everyone.
They could have solved it with a very easy argument. But go ahead.
Well,
Lindsay.
they had that argument of he's standing there. He's like, oh well, I'm not destroying the world. You know, the world just needs to evolve. And he goes, there's going to be many extinction events. Look at the dinosaurs, etc., etc. And how he basically felt he was creating a better tomorrow by causing extinction events, and that only the people that survive are basically worth having around.
They could have done it very simply at the very end, where somebody goes, "Oh, why are you doing this?" And he goes, I'm the next thing in mankind. I'm the new evolution." And whenever there's a new evolution, the old guys need to get wiped out. And it could have been very simple and succinct with 1 or 2 sentences.
Yeah, with what he was trying to accomplish by becoming the new, like, make that body, or so to speak.
Yeah, but they made such a labored effort to try and justify it, and he keeps making this argument. And they did it all to sort of bring in Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch to justify their existence. And this is going to be sad because everybody probably quite enjoyed having those characters in it. If they would have removed Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, the movie wouldn't have changed at all. It would have been the same movie. He was trying to destroy everybody. They just weren't there.
Yep.
Yeah. The thing is they could also have replaced them with just about any other character, and it would have been the same thing as well.
It wouldn't matter. They could have just been gone. Nobody would have cared.
No, what I'm saying is it's like a corollary. It goes along with what you're saying. It's they weren't necessary to the story, and to just demonstrate that, you could have replaced them or taken them out, and it wouldn't have changed it.
It seemed heavy-handed. Now, I'm going to say something that might sound slightly controversial.
Okay.
I suspect it was to try and include... It was a labored effort to try and include another female superhero as a biggie in the team.
I thought you were going to say something like that.
Am I wrong?
Yeah, but Scarlet Witch also has a play in other
She has a long
events.
History in the Avengers, but they don't have to create this whole scenario that doesn't add anything to the plot just so that she can exist.
Yeah.
They could have done completely different... They could have made her more vital.
Yeah.
She could have... Because of her weird alternate reality changing powers,
which they do a terrible job explaining.
Yeah. She could have been the justification or the cause of Ultron's existence.
Could have been.
Like something she does and he comes out. And then she finally goes like, maybe I should fix it. I mean, that could have justified her existence. But no. She's just there.
I think that some of this is down to maybe too much ambition as well.
Yep.
Which every ensemble movie is going to have.
There is certain a risk of that in every ensemble movie, but what I mean is this seems to me like The Dark Knight Rises again, where we have too much going on at once. There's the story of the miracle kids or whatever they want to call them, and then we have Ultron as well, and trying to interweave the two together. I don't know that really was pulled off very well. And maybe they should have handled them as 2 separate events.
I'll agree to that. I mean, they make such a big deal about those being characters, but really Scarlet Witch is the only one that actually matters of the two. I mean, Quicksilver comes in and does things really quick, but he barely really says much of anything. And then the fact that he dies there at the end, which is a heroic death and everything, but it's literally he dies, his sister gets upset, screams a little bit about it, and then after that, never talked about again. You don't even have like a funeral or anything, and they took his body. They could have had a funeral. It could have been like, oh, this will be like a driving force for you.
You know why they didn't do that?
Or even, like, inscribed his name on some sort of memorial for
they
those
gave
who
him
followed.
nothing.
No, you
Nothing
know why
at all.
they didn't do that? Because they didn't develop the character enough for us to give a crap.
Yeah.
That's true.
No, it's
You
like
know,
he died, and
You didn't feel anything.
we got to the end, and I'm pretty sure most people in the movie weren't like, "Where's Quicksilver?" They were probably like, "Oh yeah," they totally forgot about him.
That guy that runs really fast dies. Nobody knows his name, but
Yeah. Actually, the thing is that when we were driving home, I was talking with my wife, and she mentioned something that I felt was pretty spot on. Because I mentioned to her that there was a lot of rumor and speculation going around it, and one of the rumors was that one of the Avengers was going to die in this film. And then we find out who it was, and it's Quicksilver, and it's like, oh well.
yeah, who cares?
And the thing is that her view on it was that you couldn't really tell what Quicksilver was doing. There was like a blur and things happened. And the only time you actually saw Quicksilver actually using his powers was when they would slow it down and do those slow shots where he's just blowing through and everybody's too slow.
That's what they have to do with speed characters.
Mm-hmm.
They do. But the thing is that if they, because of the way that they're showing the speed characters, we don't care enough about them because we don't get to see them. They don't get to develop them.
That's baloney because they did it super well in the last X-Men movie. And he was my favorite character out of that movie.
Yeah, it was
over
awesome.
Everybody else. Quicksilver was freaking awesome.
He was so cool.
He was. But the thing is that they showed more of him actually using his powers as they slowed it down, and they didn't show all these blurs where
that's because they had to make it look different than the X-Men movie. You know that.
Yes, they did. And I think that, again, is a mistake.
But it's like, who cares? Who cares he died? Who cares?
Exactly. They didn't make us care about it.
Well, the backstory was a Stark weapon killed my parents. So we go through horrific experimentation to give us powers because of all our rage because of the manufacturer.
That's basically what it is, too. That is a terrible backstory. It's not
like they could have been like Stark accidentally shot a missile and killed their family. No. They literally are upset with the CEO of a company that the company's brand.
I thought that was a terrible backstory.
The justification was nonsense. It's like, let's say a Coke can randomly kills one of my nephews. I'm not going to go out and be like, Coca-Cola! You know? And even then, not even just blame Coca-Cola.
It wouldn't be Coca-Cola. You'd go to the CEO and be like, I'm going after you.
Where's Mr. Cola?
Yeah.
I want him now.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it needs to be Mr. Cola. If you say, where's Mr. Coke, they think you're involved in the drug war.
No, Mr. Coke is his first name. His sure name is
Mr.
Cola.
Coke was my father.
Yeah, Mr. Coke was my father.
It would have made more sense if it was some ramification of something that Captain America did back in World War II even.
Maybe, but it's another labored effort. I'm going to use this word too much, but a lot of the movie was, the plot lines were really labored to try and connect once again the Infinity Stones. And
That's
essentially
true.
the Infinity Stone, the whole Ultron thing is the fault of the Infinity Stone as well as Tony Stark being a douchebag.
Well, Tony Stark is a douchebag, but...
Well, that you see in every movie he's ever in. People love him to death, but it's like, you're basically in love with a really...
is justified.
Yeah, you're in love with a really cocky, full of himself, arrogant, and self-centered. Like, I mean, they basically describe why he wasn't allowed to join the Avengers in the first place, and self-absorbed.
And he joins the Avengers anyway.
Yeah, and it's like, it was spot on. It's like, no, those are all really good reasons. You probably shouldn't have him in there.
Okay, so we're going to go through one at a time the characters, and since we just talked about Quicksilver and
Tony
Scarlet
Stark?
Witch, no, one at a time.
Okay.
Quicksilver, how did you think he was portrayed overall?
Overall, I thought, other than the fact that he was a little bit too shallow, as far as character development goes, I thought he was okay. The actor, I think, did an okay job with what they gave.
Lindsay?
He didn't have enough lines for me to say one way or the other. I think you could count the number of lines he had on maybe like one or two hands.
Personality-wise, I actually think he's pretty close to the character in the comics.
Yeah, I thought so as well.
Scarlet Witch.
Again, shallow character development, not really well developed in terms of her powers and what they actually were. But I thought she was interesting.
Lindsay?
I would say it was kind of a poor development, but...
I actually 100% think that she wasn't... I didn't care for the Scarlet Witch character.
Yeah.
I didn't like sort of how she was portrayed. The weird hand movements were odd to me.
The powers that they displayed didn't actually make sense with what she's actually supposed to represent. It's like, I don't know, she was basically shooting like a red lightning thing that, I don't know, I feel like the actual portrayal of it just seemed off.
Like, you don't know exactly what she can do.
Right.
And her character wasn't very close to the comic character, so it's hard for me to judge how good she is, despite the fact she's the one kept around.
The hand movements and stuff, for me at least, evoked the images from the comics that she...
No. She does
hold on.
She does the hand movements, I just don't like how she does them.
Well, what I meant was, in the comics, she's portrayed as being part gypsy. And I thought that the kind of hand motions were a tie-in to that.
That's not my point. I don't like how the actress does them.
Yeah, another point that I noticed with her, she has this accent that she has, and it's really, I guess, Rhett's word, labored when she's doing it. And then there's actually scenes towards the end of the movie, she stops using the accent altogether. Like, when she's upset about things, it's gone. Instantly gone. And you're like, wait, what happened to your accent? All of a sudden you're American now?
It's like questionable somewhere in Eastern Europe accent.
Yeah.
It's like you don't know from where, but some
like
Eastern
Russia
European.
Or, I don't know.
You don't know. That way you can't pin it down and say the accent's bad. At least Quicksilver's accent was a little better.
Yeah, his was better, but hers just straight up disappears later on.
Captain America.
Chris Evans, I've felt he's always done a really good job as Captain America.
How about how he was portrayed in this movie? Because they didn't do a good job with him in the first Avengers.
Well, I didn't think they did a good job of utilizing him in the movie, but like I said, I think Chris Evans has done an excellent job as his portrayal of Captain America. I thought he took more of a team leader role in this one as well.
Well,
it was a lot of voiceover stuff. My point
being is how they were done in the movie and how they're portrayed in the movie.
Let's see.
As opposed to how well the actor's doing it.
Okay, then in that instance, I think they did a rather poor job as well. Because I think that he is definitely the one that needs to tie the team together. That was kind of his role as the team leader, and they just don't do that very well.
Yeah, Hawkeye actually took that role.
Yeah. He seemed more of the even-headed guy, and Captain America should be, and I think they're gonna, I swear they're gonna do this with Civil War. But they're trying to give both sides, both Captain America and Iron Man, this sort of like back and forth of both of them are kind of right and both of them are kind of wrong. So they have to bring Captain America down a little bit.
Unfortunately.
To make him seem like he's too black and white or something.
Yeah.
When it's not going to be very hard to be like, well, no, Tony Stark's wrong. Like, he's just wrong. Like, even when, like, Captain America showed up and they were having that fight with each other, I was 100% like, yeah, Tony Stark's wrong. Even Bruce Banner was like, this doesn't seem like the right thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think? How he's? I actually quite liked how he was done in the movie. I thought they gave him a lot bigger role in the Avengers. It was 100 times more.
I think so as well.
They couldn't have made him too central. One, because Tony Stark is too big a role in the movies.
I would have liked him to be more central because, I mean, as even Tony Stark says, he's the boss. Captain America should be the front of everything. But it's like he's such a nice guy that they just kind of sweep him under the rug.
He's not interesting.
Yeah, but considering that Tony Stark was the main driving force behind basically everything that kind of was going wrong in this, it makes more sense for Stark to actually be more upfront about everything versus Captain America.
Yeah, but Iron Man is like always the main character.
Yeah, I felt like Captain America should really be like, you know, stepping on his toes and really telling him he's not supposed to be doing things a little bit more.
Yeah, well, I like Captain America saying things and people listen.
Yeah.
And perhaps they're just building up the whole Iron Man, Captain America justification for them disliking each other. Because at the end, they were like, oh yeah, I'm going to miss you, buddy. Like, there was any point in any of their other interactions where I was like, oh yeah, those two are friends.
Yeah.
And then, oh yeah, I'm going to miss you, buddy. I was like, you're not friends.
It's like they've been arguing constantly. They never actually really got over their last fight from the first Avengers, where it was like, oh yeah, put on the suit.
You know,
we'll
the
go
thing
around.
is Captain America he's a nice guy. I mean, he just is. I mean, you'd walk into a place and you run into Steve Rogers and you think, man, that is a nice guy.
Well, go ahead.
I was going to say, you know, when compared to Tony Stark, I think I'm trying to be nice to Tony here. But I think that there's a trust issue that Stark's not going to overcome anytime soon.
They fought in the first Avengers movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought they gave Captain America a much bigger combat role.
Yeah.
He one-handed Ultron for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Thor couldn't handle him. To be fair, it was like upgraded Ultron. But, like, he was soloing Ultron for basically 20 minutes. It was ridiculous. Like, that whole scene on top of the truck and then off the truck. And he was kicking the crap out of him.
They tell him, keep Ultron busy. And he's like, what do you think I've been doing?
Oh, no.
And to be honest about this,
awesome.
Something I like better about this movie than the first movie is there's a lot of action, but it's actually balanced across the board about where your scenes are supposed to be. And the last battle was actually the longest battle. Versus the first Avengers, you spent so much time on just the ship and everything that happened there.
Yeah, the whole scene of repairing the ship.
Yeah. So, I mean, at least the scenes, this movie, this time around, made a little bit more sense, and the time that they spent doing it was better.
A little bit better this time around, yeah.
Well, remember, Captain America, the first one, helped repair a ship, punched some guys on the ground.
Yeah, that is it.
And that was pretty much it.
That was it. Captain
and
America
this movie,
was barely
he kicked
used.
the crap out of people, and I was much happier how they portrayed him, and how he was much more active role, even if he wasn't the center like he should be. Right. But he sucked in the first Avengers. This one, he was actually pretty darn awesome. Tony Stark?
Tony Stark was his arrogant self.
He seemed to go darker. Like, he thinks he knows what's best for everybody, and maybe this is a build-up, once again, to Civil War.
Yeah, probably.
But they took his character into I'm an intellectual, smarter than you, so to speak. I know what's best. I'm just going to do it on my own without asking anybody.
Something I also found interesting, though, when he gets compromised by Scarlet Witch, and he has that vision, it's like she's basically is like, oh, I didn't really have to do anything because he has enough fears and everything that are driving him. And Iron Man, in a sense, they're driving him towards being really the leader of things, but it's like he feels like he has this responsibility to take care of everyone and everything. And though he does it in a very selfish way, that was an interesting way to kind of portray it.
Like he has a responsibility to take care of the world.
Yeah.
Like he has to solve the world's
That's what he bears on his shoulders. Is he feels like he has to do it.
He's the smart one of the group. He's the one that has the brains to figure it all out.
Not necessarily. I mean, Banner is there.
Well,
what I'm saying is that's how he thinks.
Yeah, right. And he says, he's like, oh, I have to figure this out so that you guys don't have to do this anymore, so that you can go have your families, etc.
And Captain America was the only one that had the legit point of every time you try and
end a war before it starts.
Well, do the preemptive strike, so to speak. You always cause more problems. That every single time. Yeah. Tony Stark is doing that every time. Every time he's trying to solve it before it happens, and he causes more problems.
Exactly.
Vision could have been a whole blow up in his face moment, and
fortunately he wasn't.
he was the piece of crap. It was his fault. Everything that happened, it was stupid. How did you like Vision?
I have mixed feelings about Vision.
All right.
It was interesting seeing him adapted to the big screen. I was wondering how they would do it and how he would look, and I did like the look. Again, I think it's a little bit overreaching for this movie to add another character at this point. We already had 3 new characters added. We have the Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch, and then the new villain Ultron. And then on top of that, they're going to say, okay, now here's this new android that, and these are his origins. This is how he came about. I thought he was decently portrayed, but again, it's like one more straw on the camel's back.
Right. Lindsay?
I don't know a whole lot about the character, so I can't comment on how well it was portrayed from...
Although, sorry to interject, it makes sense that he would be in here since they had the Scarlet Witch.
Yeah. I like the story and how he's kind of birthed. I thought it was interesting how, Thor just comes on in and decides, this is what we need and just takes over it. I especially like the fact that they kind of show him picking up the, hammer, just handing it to him. Like, here you go. Like, it's just, it's just like, nothing's like even really further said, but it's like they're all questioning whether or not he's a good guy. And then it's like, he picks up the hammer when no one else could, and they're like, yeah. And I love that argument at the end about whether, an elevator could pick up the hammer or if it was worthy or not. Because they don't understand why Vision was able to pick up the hammer. And they're like, well, he's a machine. They're like, well, if you put the hammer in the elevator and it goes up, is the elevator worthy? They're like, no, the elevator's not worthy. It wouldn't go up. Like, they're having all these theoretical arguments, but Vision's an interesting
but the elevator's a non-thinking object.
Yeah.
So it would go up, because the elevator is not trying to pick up Thor's hammer.
I thought Vision was well done. I mean, you want to do a bunch of justification for some of your favorite characters, but there's not too much you could do, especially for creation of Vision. You just have to see him in future movies. The actor that played him, I thought, did a really good job. Paul Bettany, or whatever his name is. Yeah, he's really good. I thought Vision looked really good. And the whole sort of he's the opposite of Ultron played really well.
Yeah.
It gave me a Dr. Manhattan type of feeling to him.
He gave me a Martian Manhunter kind of feel.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Less of a Dr. Manhattan feel for me, because Dr. Manhattan got to the point where he's like, he doesn't really care about humanity, whereas Vision does.
I'm saying before the whole, I don't care, I'm above everybody, but, I guess as far as his presence go, the way he's just floating around like that, and the kind of the look he has, minus the awkwardness, but, he basically...
You mean the
yes.
The nude blue dude?
Yes, I do.
Bruce Banner.
Yeah, this is going to be kind of tangled up in my feelings about the whole Black Widow Bruce Banner thing. In the scenes where he wasn't flirting with Black Widow, they were just fine. The whole lullaby thing with the Hulk, that was kind of weird. I don't know. The Hulk is there to smash things. People.
Yeah, but
that's about it.
See, that's the thing, though. The Hulk shouldn't be on the Avengers. He shouldn't. They just put him on there because they were making a Hulk movie and they had the rights. He shouldn't be part of the team. He can't be controlled. The Avengers were originally sort of created in a lot of the comics to stop the Hulk.
Yeah, he's
as a justification.
He's a force of nature. You basically unleash him and get out of the way.
Right, but this is a way for them to be like, oh, this is how we calm him down. So they had to create this whole narrative of romance where he'll actually listen to her.
Right.
And be like, oh, I'll calm down and stop punching things or whatever.
Yeah. And the thing is that Banner, actually, I think the way that Banner is, that whole inner turmoil about he wants to be just a normal guy, but he sees himself as a monster because of this Jekyll Hyde thing that he's done to himself. And on top of that, he can see where Tony Stark is coming from. He doesn't necessarily wholeheartedly agree with him. And Tony has to convince him to go along with him and things. But, it was kind of interesting to me that everybody jumped on Tony Stark and was like, you've got to stop this. You can't be doing this. This is all your fault. Bruce Banner was helping him the whole time.
Yeah, but Banner was doing it reluctantly. And
but
Banner's that unsure, socially awkward, nerdy guy who gets pulled into it because of the cocksure attitude of Stark. You know that what was going on.
Yeah, and I think that he pulled that off pretty well.
And I think as far as Mark Ruffalo's acting of Bruce Banner is really well done.
Mm-hmm.
Lindsay?
I'll agree to that.
I thought Scarlet Witch was added a lot more personality. We got to see a lot more of her past.
You mean Black Widow?
Black Widow. A lot more of her past. I quite enjoyed. They gave her more humanity, more depth to her character. I thought she was actually one of the better grown characters because of the movie.
Yeah. The thing is that for her and Hawkeye, they've got to do a lot more storytelling in the movies because they haven't had their one-offs yet.
They're never gonna.
You're probably right.
No, I'm 100% right. Nobody wants to see a spy movie with Black
Scarlett
Widow.
Johansson?
No, nobody wants. It's just gonna. It'll just be a spy movie.
They've talked about it, but it's like
no. It'll just
They've
be
also
like
talked about
watching
the Hawkeye
James Bond.
movie,
Nobody's gonna care. It's not superheroes. She's
That's
interesting
true.
because she could keep up with them, not because of she's just a spy.
well, yeah.
Anything you want to add to her character, Lindsay?
Well,
No.
They had a weird thing, I guess, that got blown out of proportion.
Yeah, that's
with
something
feminism.
we can talk about. What were you going to say, Jason?
well, I was going to say there's a lot more. She had a lot more technological enhancement this time around than she did in the previous
Yeah,
movie.
to justify her keeping up with everybody.
She got a live wire in her suit, I noticed. I was like, that seems really impractical and pointless,
Yeah,
but okay.
It makes
it's
her
like
seem
she's
cooler.
got all this glowing stuff, and it's like she's supposed to be infiltration, and
She's going to a rave on her way.
yeah.
She's got glow sticks.
Okay, we will double back to Black Widow, Hawkeye, really quick.
Hawkeye was the most developed character in this entire movie besides Iron Man.
I agree.
You actually I actually like him a lot better now. Before he was just that
some dude with a bow.
just some dude with a bow.
Yeah.
And honestly, out of the entire movie, my favorite line comes from Hawkeye when he's sitting there telling Scarlet Witch, he can't babysit her. He's like, there's robots everywhere. It's gonna be the end of the world. There's gonna be a meteor that's gonna be dropped on Earth, and the entire planet is gonna be wiped out. I'm a guy with a bow and arrow. None of this makes sense.
Jason?
Yeah, that was a good line. It was interesting. I didn't take him to be a family man, and that was kind of
in the comics, he was a family man.
Well, I remember him being with Songbird, if I remember right.
No,
And
he
she
had
was
a family and kids and everything.
Huh. Well, I haven't really followed Hawkeye that much, I guess.
It makes you see Hawkeye in a totally different light, though.
In the Ultimates comics, he had a family and children. And if you remember in the Ultimates comics, they killed his family to try and get to him at one point. Like,
that
way
must
down.
be where...
Remember when they were torturing him and he was flicking his fingernails at people?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they killed his family at that point.
See, I it's been a while since I've read the Ultimates. It hasn't been as long since I've read Avengers Assembled, and I think that's why I've forgotten about that.
A lot of the Marvel Cinematic Universe seems closer to the Ultimates versions than they do the 616.
Uh-huh.
He was the most interesting of all of them. I quite got more endeared to him. They had him as a side role, or he was possessed for most of the first movie. They actually gave him something interesting to do, and they justified his character, and I quite liked it.
Yeah, and I did too. The thing is that they seem to have shifted a lot of Captain America's "I've got to bring this team together" to Hawkeye for this movie. Not that they didn't do a good job with it, but like we said, that probably should have been shifted back onto Captain America rather than Hawkeye.
Right, but I never feel that they do Captain America the way that they should, but they seem to be manipulating everything in certain ways to justify Civil War down the road.
It makes Hawkeye a much more important character, though. As his wife was talking to him, it's like, oh yeah, you know, you're with all these people that are basically gods, and you're just a normal guy. And she's like, yeah, but I think they really need you, though, and that scares me. And that's kind of the thing. In this movie, they actually needed Hawkeye as much as he's just an average guy who can shoot a bow and arrow really well.
As a secondary, I like that we saw War Machine and that we saw Falcon.
Yeah.
I quite enjoyed seeing those characters show up. Like, they should be showing up to big things like that.
Yeah, it's like I saw War Machine. I was like, where's Falcon?
I kept hoping to see Falcon flying around.
Yeah, and then when he did make the appearance, I was pretty happy with it.
He almost didn't need to do anything. You just had to see him flying around in the sky, like, participating, and that would have been it.
Yeah.
Blowing robots out of the sky, that would have been awesome.
That would have been great. And it wouldn't have, like, taken away anything from the story. But anyway. No. So, to the huge controversy that I talked to Lindsay about before we jumped on the podcast. So there was a huge controversy in the movie, Jason.
Okay.
Which I guarantee you didn't pick up on, but all of the feminists did. And all of the feminists were super furious with Joss Whedon, who I will say has written some of the best female character roles in a long time. He did Buffy. He did Firefly with
Summer
Glau in it. He writes very strong female characters. So what were they all pissed off at?
The pregnant lady.
The what?
The pregnant lady.
What pregnant lady?
Hawkeye's wife.
No!
How dare you be pregnant and a stay-at-home woman? Empower yourself. Take charge.
No.
Your husband's a superhero. What are you doing at home with the kids?
No. They were pissed off because of that one scene where Black Widow is talking with Bruce Banner.
In the bathroom?
No. No. Anyway, let me finish.
Okay, go ahead.
And they're talking to each other, and Bruce Banner goes, "I'm a monster, I can't have children." And then she goes, "I'm also a monster, I can't have children either," or whatever. And the feminists were furious because they saw it as she saw her self-worth as less because she couldn't have children. And they were so pissed off that they just harassed Joss Whedon to the point where he actually got rid of his Twitter account.
Wow.
That was a ridiculous controversy. I don't see it. I don't understand why everybody's upset. It's not like she flat out came out and said, "They took away my ability to have children. I'm not worth anything." She was responding to, "I can't have children," and then she said, "Neither can I." It's not like they came out and she was just like, "Hey, everybody, I can't have children. I'm not a woman."
No, she was saying that she was a monster because she was a former assassin.
Yeah.
And she was sympathizing with Bruce Banner because he can't have children because he could pass on the Hulk characteristics, and she's like, "I can't have children either. I'm sterile."
Yeah.
They're two separate things.
It is two separate things. And as she's kind of going into it, she's just... It's weird that people just blew this way out of proportion because they'll do it with anything that they possibly can because they're feminists and that's what they do. But it's like she's sitting there and she gets emotional about it, like, "Oh, I can't have children." It's like, even if I wanted to, and she explains in the sense of, They do it because they want you to never have a reason not to complete the mission. And the one thing that would be more important than completing the mission would be like children, which seems logical to me, and if you care about children. And it seemed to me that like she actually would have that desire to have children, but it's not even a possibility for her. And maybe it's not even so much that she values herself less. She thinks she's a monster because she kills people, but she doesn't value herself less. But she's like, that ability that I might have had has been taken from me, and it was something that was stripped from me. It doesn't make me less of a person, but it's something that I can't do anymore, and that's heartbreaking.
Yeah, but
I'm surprised that the feminists didn't latch on to the I would like to have kids, but I can't.
No,
it's like, if you have kids, then you can't pursue your career.
No, but the whole thing was, she was upset, and now it's basically telling all the women in the world that she's not worth anything because she can't have children. That was the whole freaking controversy. Look,
Yes.
you know what was my first question? The very first question I asked was, what if the character wants children? What if that's part of her personality? That humanizes her more? It takes away from the whole sort of horror of being raised as a spy and the training they had to go through. And maybe that was one of the parts of her humanity she kept around. That makes her more of an interesting character. Would they have been happier if she stood there and went, yeah, I can't have children because I'm committed to my job?
Gotta save the world. Can't be any slack in it.
One day I want to be the first non-American, non-naturalized citizen female president. And I have to set aside children to be important in the world.
Yep.
It's the dumbest controversy I've ever seen, but it was literally exploding across the internet. To the point where it was bad enough.
Nobody, I bet, like, hardly anyone noticed, and then one person who seeks those things out was like, oh yeah, and this.
It was bad enough Joss Whedon got rid of his Twitter account. Now, he claimed that that's not it, that he has too much to do, and he can't, Twitter's too much of a distraction. I guarantee you that was a huge motivating factor.
You know, that's funny that he's like, oh, I just can't, I'm too busy, I can't do Twitter. It's like, you don't actually have to close your account to get off of Twitter.
No, you
can just leave it and walk away.
I thought that was stupid, and some people complain that she sort of like, she got captured and she had to be rescued like a princess or something.
Uh-huh.
And I was like,
the one girl.
She did enough butt-kicking on her own. She was a powerful character, and she was more interesting, developed her more. I didn't have any problems with how it was done. And I don't think they were walking out there and saying, she can't have children, she's less of a woman.
Yeah. Well, the whole reason she got captured was she was successful in doing what she was there to do. But she got snatched by Ultron after they ripped from him the body he was preparing for himself.
I know.
And she was successful in her mission, but she got captured. So what? I mean, if Captain America had done it, he'd have chucked him in prison too.
Yeah.
He just happened to get Black Widow, who was doing what she was supposed to do. And successfully, I might add.
But everybody sees everything in terms of gender and race, and you can't just watch a movie and enjoy it. You have to be like, oh, look at that comment. He's the biggest sexist in the world.
Yep.
Now, the thing is I guess, at least from my perspective, I think that I have been quite negative about the movie. I enjoyed it. I sat there and I watched it and I laughed at the one-liners. I thought the action scenes were pretty good. I thought that some of them were a little bit corny, like the one right at the beginning where Captain America, it was almost like he was snowboarding on his motorcycle. But the thing is, it is a fun movie. It is. It's a fun movie. Not the best movie they could have made, but it's definitely a fun movie.
Conclusion, Lindsay?
I concur. It's just a lot of fun to watch. I would watch it again. You can get nitpicky about everything else in between, but at the end of the day, it really is just fun to watch, and it's a lot better than pretty much most movies out there right now, so it's definitely worth the the money to go see?
I really liked it. I thought this time around it was more than just a vehicle for Iron Man. I thought it was like, it wasn't until Winter Soldier where we finally saw superheroes really fighting.
Right.
And this
right,
movie,
in Captain America.
Right, this movie you saw a lot of superheroes fighting, and it was great. And they should have done more of, they did more of what they should have done with that. They gave Captain America a bigger role. He was more vital to what was going on. They fleshed out character of Bruce Banner some, as well as Black Widow, as well as Hawkeye to a big degree. We didn't even talk about Thor. I thought Thor was probably pushed too far to the side in some things. He was the one that sort of gave the central theme of, hey guys, Infinity Stones or whatever.
Yeah, well,
I thought
it makes sense that it would come from him.
Right. I thought the acting was better, and the personality of the character was sort of brought out a little bit better than it was in the first Avengers movie.
To Chris Hemsworth's credit, in the original Thor movie, I thought he was just pretty terrible, honestly, and that could have been just a directing thing, but I just thought it was bad. I felt like he's grown into his role, and I would say in this movie he more envelops the character than he ever has. That to say, though, he didn't say a whole lot, but what he did say, you felt like that was right for the character.
Yeah, he was kind of marginalized, but it seemed to me a lot of that was because he's an Asgardian deity, and so he needs to be off doing his Asgardian thing. And I think that felt like an excuse for not pulling him into a more central role.
I guess, but
I didn't get the whole fountain thing, but you know.
I don't know. It seemed like every time something important was going on, every time Thor showed up to do something, it was like plot-wise, they were like, we need to find a place to put Thor. Yeah. It's like, no matter what was going on, where are we going to put Thor in the movie? Because all these important things are going on. It's like you're playing a game with figures, and you don't know where to put the extra one.
Right.
And they were constantly just sort of trying to ham-fist him in places.
Some of the best action scenes, though, I would say, was in combination with Thor and Captain America, where they were
did
teaming up.
really well. Yeah.
Why did they work so well together?
They're wonderful.
I want to see more buddy comedy Captain America and Thor, because they fought. Every combat scene they were in together was so freaking awesome.
It was really good.
It was.
They need to fight together constantly. I just want a Thor Captain America movie now. I could care less about like Infinity War movie, just Thor Captain America movie.
It'd be awesome.
Those two work together so well.
And personality-wise, they actually correspond pretty well.
They have respect for each other. Tony Stark thinks he's like the most important person in the world. He's kind of a douchebag. At least Thor and Captain America, I could see them bro-fisting at some point.
Yeah.
Did you see that? Did you notice that eyebrow raise when Captain America grabbed the hammer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty
well,
good.
Now, in my opinion, he should have been able to pick it up.
Yes. I was totally waiting for him to do it.
They didn't let him do it.
Yeah.
It bothered me that they didn't let him pick it up. And
I think that it would have been funny, because if Captain America went and goes to like really put all this weight into it and then just like flies backwards because he's like, okay, that was easier than I thought.
It should have been easy, but I know why they didn't do it, so that they could justify Vision being able to pick it up so everybody can go, oh, I trust him.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, they could have, if Captain America had picked it up, then Vision did it, I think it would have reinforced it.
No, I think in their mind it takes away from the fact that Vision could pick it up.
Maybe.
None of them could.
Because it makes it significant, thus everybody can go like, I guess we should trust this guy. When 5 seconds ago he was going to be the herald of the end of the world.
Right. Maybe, and this just is me speculating, but I mean, Captain America, they were just goofing around. If it had been in a combat situation and he needed to get that hammer to Thor, it would have been totally against Captain America's character, if he hadn't been able to pick it up. But since it was kind of a we're just goofing around thing.
Now, you're just trying to justify the bad writing.
You're right, I am.
You're trying to get a roundabout way. I guarantee you they did it to add to the whole Vision picking it up thing.
It actually would have been more in character for Captain America at that point to say, "No, guys, I'm not going to."
No, they made a big deal about that. Shoot, they had an entire scene, a frame of it, showing Thor setting the hammer down, just so that they could justify Vision walking over and pick it up. Because it's not like he was going to grab it out of his hand.
Oh, no. What I mean is, when they're joking around and they're trying to pick up the hammer and stuff, and Captain America, to me, it would have seemed more in character with him being a humble, nice guy to say, "No, guys, I'm not going to do it." But
I don't know. They're trying to give him that bro attitude as I'm part of the crew. Anything else to add before we get out of here?
Nope.
For as much as we've ragged on this movie, take away from it that we all three enjoyed it and would go see it again.
What would you give it, real quick, rating out of 10?
Out of 10? Solid 8.
Lindsay?
I concur. I would do an 8.
I would give the first Avengers a 6, and this one an 8.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
There you go, guys. DG Podcast. Avengers has an 8.
We averaged it and came up with an 8 still.
Yeah.
But we all said 8, so there you go.
Well, stop taking away from my ability to do math.
You're right. You're excellent at math, and I've never said anything otherwise.
You just suggested it.
I've never done such a thing.
Anyway, thanks for hanging out with us. If you agree or disagree with our opinions, please comment or email us or whatever.
Man, tell us that if you really like the movie, tell us where we got our analysis wrong, in your opinion. Or if you hated it, tell us where we got it right.
If you got facts that we don't have, give it to us.
We might be, me and Lindsay are definitely going to go see Mad Max. I love the crap out of Mad Max. It comes out, this Friday?
Yep.
So me and Lindsay are definitely going to go see that. So look forward to us probably doing another one. Or at least me and Lindsay.
I'll ask the questions.
Yeah.
So, did you feel that they did justice?
No, you don't need to be spoiled by it. We could probably just do a solo. But if you like these spoiler casts, look forward to more, I suppose, until we get tired of doing them.
Yeah,
thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us. This was Jason and Lindsay, as well as me, Rhett, because we never bring up my name, because I'm not as interesting as the two of you.
Right, and you also never say anything.
Ever. I'm not saying anything right now.
Nope.
It's a figment of your imagination, people. Don't believe it.
You'll play this back and my audio will be out of it. Anyway, see you guys later. Bye.
Later.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Distracted Gamers podcast. If you like the show, follow Rhett and Jason, the world's two most lethally stupid internet personalities, on Twitter @DG Podcast, or check them out at www.thedistractedgamers.com. If you loved or hated what you've heard here, email them at thedistractedgamers.blogspot.com and share your feelings. Not that Jason will care, since he hasn't any, of course.